Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, President of Universal Accounting Center, and this is a show dedicated to helping owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses work on their business, addressing various issues in each episode that range from marketing, selling, pricing, staffing, client onboarding, client retention, tech stacks, mental health, and so much more. Each and every week we have on the show experts, individuals to help us address things that we need to be doing to work on our business, and today is going to be a wonderful example of that. I happen to have on the show today Dr. Sabrina Starling. She happens to be the Business Psychologist. She is basically an international best-selling author of How to Hire the Best and the 4-Week Vacation. She's the founder and host of the Profit by Design podcast. She and her team coach entrepreneurs to take their lives back from their business. She basically believes in work supporting life, not the other way around. They are on a mission at their business to send 10,000 entrepreneurs on a 4-week vacation in 10 years. So Dr. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be a wonderful discussion. You know, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, whether ourselves or our clients, we're always in a position where we're probably, like me, I'm going to be the guilty one here, workaholics. We work quite a bit. But like you, there is value in those vacations that we can take. So we're going to have a wonderful conversation today. But what I would like to do is backtrack a little bit and give us a little bit of context as to your background as a doctor in psychology.
Okay. So yes, I went straight to graduate school from undergrad, got a doctorate in psychology, and went into community mental health once I got my doctorate. And
Nice.
I worked in a rural clinic in Riverton, Wyoming. And
Oh my heavens.
I wanted an adventure. I went to grad school at UT in Austin, and all of my friends were leaving Austin, and it wasn't as much fun. And I thought, okay, I need to go find a place that'll be just a new life adventure. And so that's how I ended up in Wyoming. And part of that was to pay off my student loans. I had massive student loans, and the National Health Service Corps, in exchange for 2 years of service, would pay off those loans. And that sounded like a really good deal to me. It's kind of like winning the lottery once you look at all the interest that builds up.
2 years and done.
Loans. Well, it was a little long because I had a lot of loans, so I had to stay more than 2 years.
They said to you, no, not so quick. Keep going.
You've got some service here. But the key for me is that there wasn't enough of me to go around, and I got burnt out. I mean, that was truly an underserved area. And I started looking at, I need to repurpose my skills. I've spent all this time and money in graduate school, and I discovered life coaching. And I thought, this is it. I can be a life coach. I can work from home in rural Wyoming and talk to people anywhere in the world and do it on the phone and have and all of the good things. So I started coaching, and my clients ended up being business owners, and they seemed to want to work with me primarily around time management, work-life balance. And then once they realized I was a psychologist, they also wanted me to help them with their employees. And their biggest complaint is, help me get them motivated. Like I just need to get them engaged, and they're not motivated. So can you
Why don't they work?
Yeah, why don't they work? And so what I started recognizing is what seemed like a work-life balance problem for these business owners. They're working, 70 hours a week. And I would talk to them about business growth, and they would say, no. You don't understand. We don't want to grow. And I said, what do you mean you don't want to grow? And they said, well, if we grow, then there's just more responsibility on my shoulders. I can't hire good employees. And so I started to see that there was this issue that was underlying everything. And that was, if they could have good employees on their teams, they wouldn't have to work so much. They could have a better life. And I thought, this is going to work great. And so I started looking into, what resources are out there to help small business owners with hiring. Back then, nothing. There was nothing. There was top grading, but that's for a corporate audience. And you really need to have an entire HR department to execute that effectively. And so the other thing is that I would tell these business owners, if you want to have good employees on your team, you really need to fire your warm bodies, because no A player wants to work on a team with warm bodies. And all of them said, you don't understand, Dr. Sabrina. We're small business owners. We're in a small town. This is a rural area. We have to just make do with what we have. And they said over and over, it's just the way it is. And that started to sink in my head. And I actually heard myself say it. And that really alarmed me, because I'm not one to just go with status quo and say it's just the way it is. And one evening I went to bed and I woke up the next morning. And when you have that, when you're transitioning from sleep to wakefulness, sometimes you'll
Yeah.
have this like bolt from the blue idea and you solve a big problem.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that. What I had running through my head was this powerful question of, what if it's not true? What if it's not true that we're small business owners in a small town in a rural area and we can't get good help? And that just really that excited me, because it put me on a mission, because I thought, if I can find small business owners who have A players on their teams, I could interview them and I could find out, how did they get these A players? Well, that all sounded good. And when I started reaching out to these business owners, a lot of them said, yes, I have 1 or 2 A players, but I don't want you to interview me. And I said, why? And they said, well, because I have no idea what I did to get them. And if I lost them, I don't know how I'd replace them.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I get it that you don't want to be interviewed, but would you just tell me the story of how they came to be on your team? And they all agreed to that.
Oh,
So
okay.
I collected all these stories. And one evening in my living room, I laid out all the stories on the floor. And I thought, I wonder if there are categories and patterns here, and I can connect the dots. And sure enough, I started grouping them, and there were patterns. And Roger, when there's a pattern, there's a system. And what I realized is there was a lot of similarity across these business owners and how they had attracted these A players to their teams. They had been doing it intuitively. It wasn't systematized, and they weren't owning that there was a system. And so that's how I came to write the first book in the How to Hire the Best series. And I was going to be, to talk about niching down, I was going to be the rural business owner specialist for hiring.
Okay.
And that was what I was going to focus my business on. As soon as that book was published, I started getting phone calls from business owners all over the country. I calls from New York, New Jersey, San Francisco, Denver, and they'd all start out the same way. They said, Dr. Sabrina, I am not in a rural area, but I have this problem. Do you think what you wrote about in this book would help me? And I said, I have no idea. Let's try it and see. And sure enough, if it works in a rural area, it works exponentially better in more populated areas. And so that's how I came to write a whole series. I've written 3 books on how to hire the best. The latest one is How to Hire the Best, the Entrepreneur's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Team Members. But here's the deal, Roger. I never set out to be a small business hiring expert. That was not what I wanted to do. You and I both know Mike Capuzzi. I became the very first pumpkin plan strategist.
Yeah.
And Mike helped me pumpkin plan my business. And he said, he asked me what I really want to do. And I said, I really want to write the book, The 4-Week Vacation. And he said, well, have you taken a 4-week vacation? And I said, no. As a matter of fact, I haven't, but maybe along the journey I could. And he said, well, you really have to take a 4-week vacation before you can write that book. And he said, but there's something else here. And he said, before you write that book, you have to help these business owners with their hiring challenges, because that's what's keeping them from being able to take the 4-week vacation. So that's how I ended up writing all those books before I actually wrote the 4-week vacation. And it is so true that once you know how to hire A players and grow a team with A players, you are putting yourself in a position that you no longer have to be tied to the business. You can free yourself up, and you can set your business up so that it can run without you. So it's a combination of hiring those A players and having systems in place. And so that's my greatest passion, is to help business owners take their lives back from their businesses. And you mentioned our big, hairy, audacious goal at Tap the Potential to send 10,000 business owners on a 4-week vacation in the next 10 years. I did a lot of reflecting on my last 4-week vacation on when I'm going to retire and how will I know I'm done. And it was really clear to me, number one, I'm not done, but I needed a measurable to know that I've really made an impact in the world of entrepreneurship where business owners are able to have a high quality of life as their businesses are growing. And that's been one of my biggest questions is how do you grow a profitable business and it not take over your life?
Yeah.
So what I came to is my measurable is I'll know I've had an impact when we've gotten 10,000 entrepreneurs to take a 4-week vacation over the next 10 years.
So I'm going to back up a little bit here because I think that journey that you've explained is something that's going to be very intriguing to my listeners. First of all, writing the 3 books as you did as to hiring the best people, what's a learning, a takeaway? Because you clearly, after putting everything down on your floor, started to identify some similarities and identify a process, a system. And what you learned is not just something for rural America, but clearly can be applied anywhere, even in the larger metropolitans. What is one takeaway that my listeners could maybe hear that if interested, they could go read more about, but something that's applicable that they could actually apply as they're trying to hire these A players in their team?
That's such a good question. What I have learned, and it's taken me about 10 years to have this epiphany. So this is not like surface level. But when we're hiring, we're so used to having disengaged, warm body team members on our team. That's kind of our framework of who we expect to get. And A players have a completely different psychology than the average team member. And that changes everything about how we approach attracting and retaining them in our businesses. So just to give you an example of that, A players are rarely unemployed. So they are not scrolling Indeed looking at your job ad. And so whenever we go to hire, we think, okay, I need to create a job ad and put it on Indeed, and I hope I get an A player. If that's all we're doing, we're probably not getting A players because if someone is scrolling Indeed every day, they're probably unemployed or they're not in a great situation. And that does happen. You have A players who aren't in a great situation. They're looking. But A players, their psychology is they move from one opportunity to the next. So it's word of mouth through their network. And so we need to tap into that, the A player networks, and how they're connecting with each other and be visible in those networks and position ourselves as employers of choice for the A players we want to attract. So that means we need to really understand what are A players looking for and how does that align with what we offer in this business, and how do we set ourselves up to be a great place to work for those A players that we want on our teams. And once we start operating from that mindset, how do I become an employer of choice for those A players that I want? That puts us on the path to how we run our business in a way that will attract them and retain them, but also how we start to spread the word of mouth about us as being a great place to work.
I'm loving how you describe that because I've taught this for years. Being in an accounting school, we have one of the courses that we offer, which is Finding Employment with Confidence. And it happens to address one of the key things that I think relates to this, which is in the end, the job that you ultimately get is oftentimes not because of what you know, but who you know. And one of the things
Yes.
that I think that really resonates with is the fact that you're talking about this network. It's basically how can we tap into this who you know kind of a scenario, and that's where it plays out. The second thing I'd add to what you're sharing here are 2 characteristics that I find are very important when you're trying to create this culture that you're defining, where you can kind of draw in individuals that can ultimately be these A players. And the 2 things that I would say happen to be first, clarity. It's the very specific nature of the role they're performing. People can excel when they know what's expected of them. And so if you can be very deliberate as to what is the defining attribute of success. If you do this, you can thrive here. People want to know what is it I need to do in order to be a success. But the second thing is trust. At the end of the day, it's not micromanaging. It's letting people feel as if they have the autonomy to be successful. So those 2 are the characteristics that I have found that are essential for people to thrive and feel as if they're contributing members of the organization. What would you add to that?
So the trust level is so interesting because I like a good policy and procedure, those SOPs, because everything runs smoothly when we, like you said, clarity, we
Oh,
know
I
what's
love them.
expected. So what's interesting to me is in most organizations and small businesses, we create policies and procedures to control the warm bodies who aren't performing. And we can inadvertently create a workplace that is noxious to A players by doing that. And so I'll give you an example.
Okay.
We have, when we hire at Tap the Potential, we're all a part-time team. So we hired some team members and they were working on a part-time basis and we had them hourly. And as they were moving up in their job responsibilities, I was taking them to conferences with me. And one of the things that started to happen is I had said, I don't want overtime. I got to manage the payroll, right? And inevitably, because they're A players, they want to go to everything at the conference, every session. And their hours were adding up. But then they weren't reporting their hours accurately. They were, working but not working. And I said, no, you can't do that. You've got to be honest about your hours. I mean, A players are being dishonest because they don't want to accrue overtime for the company, but they wanted to be in the training sessions. And so I thought, and this is so tedious to manage because then they would come to me and say, well, Dr. Sabrina, which session should I not go to? And I thought, am I having to have this conversation with you? Like which session you shouldn't go to? And so I came back from that and I thought, this is stupid. And so we put them on salary, but we didn't just put them on salary. We went to a policy of unlimited vacation and sick time. And everyone says, oh my gosh, what do you mean unlimited vacation and sick time? Well, first off, I take 4-week vacations and I believe what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I want my people in my company to have the same luxuries that I have. When I take a 4-week vacation, I make sure that my key responsibilities are handled for those 4 weeks. Whatever it is that I'm responsible for, that is delegated out. Someone else is doing it so that key functions are happening. And we can do that with any role that we have in the company. And what this eliminates is having to track sick time and vacation time. So we just eliminated that. And we have an SOP that says when you take vacation time, you need to plan for it ahead. You need to cover those key responsibilities, and you can be gone as long as you want. This creates an environment that's highly attractive to A players versus something that was getting noxious where they were having to track time and make sure they weren't working overtime and stay within their hours. And we also, when they went to salary, we said, we're going to audit your time every quarter, not to control you, but to make sure you're not working more than the part-time hours that we've created the expectations for this role around.
Very interesting. I know of some organizations that have implemented what you've just described. I'm not there yet. I'm not in the position yet where I've seen the light on that one yet. But I can definitely tell you that I know of organizations that have implemented it, and they speak, like you just said, very highly of the fact that the people have the autonomy to, when they're responsible and effective, they're able to work their position such that they can be gone for those periods of time. So here's what I'd like to do. I know that you're passionate about these 4-week vacations for these individuals. I'm going to set the stage with something that I have to share on this topic, and I'd like to see how it relates, because 4 weeks, if I understand you correctly, you're talking about 4 consecutive weeks, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I'd like to...
unplugged.
Fully unplugged. Well, that's a big ask too. But all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go and set the stage with this. For years in one of the presentations that I give, actually it's a few presentations that I give, I speak of personal time and the value that people need to recharge. I would define myself as a workaholic. I love work. I enjoy it. I am very happy with it. But because of that, I learned years ago my need to basically recharge. And one of the things that I learned through a good deal of research is that studies have been done that have actually shown that the vacation itself isn't what's rehabilitating. It is the anticipation for the trip itself, the time off. And so the studies were showing that as individuals approached the vacation, whatever the situation may have been, it was the planning for the anticipation of what was going to take place that was the benefiting factor of the vacation. So in other words, it was prior to the vacation that they got the benefit, not during nor after. Now, the other thing that the study showed happened to be that there was a large depression that occurred once the vacation was over that actually came because of the fact that there was nothing else on the horizon. And one of the big things that came through the studies is that they needed to have something on the horizon within 8 to 12 weeks that allowed them to finish the vacation and then have something else to work towards and anticipate. And it was because of those anticipations that they were able to ride from one high to another high to another high. And it wasn't that these vacations needed to be anything extravagant. They didn't need to be a trip to Europe, a trip to Tahiti, and all these things. It could be, a simple weekend we're doing this next weekend and so forth. Those are what the studies were saying. How does what I've just described now set up well this idea of why the 4-week vacation is so important?
Well, it's really interesting. So first off, when you are working towards a 4-week vacation, you are building up to it. So you're testing your business and you're doing vacation tests. So
Okay.
that plays right into riding from one experience to the next and anticipating what the next experience will be. So the other thing that I will share is as I wrote the 4-week vacation book, I had challenged clients who are trailblazers that tap the potential to take 4-week vacations because I wanted to document the journey. I went on the journey and other trailblazers went on the journey. And what was interesting to me is a lot of us experienced depression on our 4-week vacation. And it was more of an existential crisis around who am I if the business can run without me this long? And
Wow.
am I no longer needed? And so the depression wasn't, and it's that sense, because we ask that you fully unplug, it's that sense of what do I do with myself if I'm not attached to my phone? When we ran the Breakthroughs retreats and we would do the no cell phone challenge, and we would have business owners come in at the start of the day and put their cell phone in a basket and then whisk it away to an undisclosed location until the end of the day. There were people experiencing real physiological
Yes.
symptoms,
Yes.
withdrawal from not being attached to the phone.
Yes.
So as I wrote the 4-week vacation, I did a deep dive into the research on how we work and the most effective ways to work. I've worked a 25-hour work week for 18 years and grown the business. And I used to keep it a secret. And the reason I would keep it a secret is because I was working with a lot of male business owners who were working 70 hours a week. And I figured if I said to them, I'm working 25 hours, they would say, oh, you don't have a real business. And it wasn't until a colleague said to me, Dr. Sabrina, not only do you have a real business, but you have a really cool business that you're working 25 hours a week and the rest of your team is working part-time too. Like, that's super cool. You need to talk about that more. And so I got intrigued as I was writing the 4-week vacation, not just on the value of vacation, but how we work and how we can structure our work in a way that better supports our lives and helps make us more effective. So one of the things that is fascinating to me is we all run our lives based on this 8-hour workday, this 40-hour week. We are not designed as human beings who do knowledge work. We're not in the industrial era anymore. We're not working in the factories. We are not designed to perform optimally with our brains for 8 hours a day. The research shows across multiple studies, it's anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 to 5 hours a day is our max. And I know this. I live this. When my kids started going to school, I thought, oh, I can work a 40-hour week now. This is going to be great. I'll get so much done and the business will grow. It'll be amazing. That didn't happen. I actually took a slide back because I was fatigued and I was working longer. And so what I've come to realize is we work better when we limit how much we work. And so I know I'm talking to an audience of accounting and bookkeeping firm owners, and it's tax season, right? Like, you're working so many hours and you're exhausted. This is not the ideal scenario. And so at Tap the Potential, we have a lot of accountants and bookkeepers who are clients who start working with us, and they say, that 4-week vacation, that's nice. That's not what I really want. I want that 25-hour work week, Dr. Sabrina. How do we do that? And so this is where we really start looking at what are your $10,000 an hour activities as the business owner, and focus your time there and make sure you're prioritizing that time, because that's the on the business time. Those are the activities that grow the business and make the business better. And My story that I share around this, when I started my business years and years ago, I was a brand new coach. I knew nothing about being in business, and I had to learn it all. I had to learn marketing, I had to learn sales, bookkeeping, and how to coach all at the same time.
Yep.
And I dropped my daughter off at daycare. She had been sick the night before. Little babies, they get sick. And so I came home, and instead of being able to just dive into my work, I had to go do laundry. And I was standing in the laundry room, and I just had this meltdown because I thought, I don't have time to be doing laundry. I need to be in there at the computer doing all the things. And I just started blubbering and crying. And then all of a sudden, I just settled down, and I had this thought come to me. Okay, Sabrina, if you can only get one thing done today that's going to move this business forward, what is the one thing you need to do? And I don't remember what my answer to that was, but I just went and did that one thing. And I decided as long as I do my one thing every day, I'm going to have peace. I don't care how much I get done, but I'm going to have peace. And that turns out to have been a very impactful way to start running the business, because I learned about the 80-20 principle after that. And nowadays, everybody's familiar with 80-20. So 80% of the results we get come from 20% of our efforts. Okay, so all the extra things we're doing are not that impactful. And when we design our businesses so that we are focusing on our highest value activities, when we're working from our strengths, we're going to have stronger and greater impact. So it's not about how much we work, it's about how effective we are when we're working. And I've created this chart of $10,000 an hour activities that really lays out the difference between a $100 an hour activity, $1,000 an hour activity, and a $10,000 an hour activity. And I love sharing it with business owners because you can print it out, you can put it on your wall behind your computer, you can let your eye fall on it. And it's a constant reminder to not be doing the $10, $100 an hour activities, but to always be making sure that you're moving further to the right side of that chart where you're getting to the $10,000 an hour activities. As I've grown my team and I've started delegating, and I've got leaders now on my team, I see that they have the same struggles. They can get bogged down in doing the $10 an hour work when I need them doing the thinking things that are the $1,000 and $10,000 an hour activities. And so this chart is helpful to them because it supports them in delegating. And kind of tying this all back to the 4-week vacation, we need everyone in our business, but especially key team members, to be taking vacation. Because if someone's not taking vacation and fully unplugging, they're in a role that is totally dependent on them. And if something happens to them, there's a serious negative impact on the business. And so when we have our team members taking vacation, an unlimited vacation, they are forced to think about, how do I delegate my responsibilities when I'm gone? They have to find the people on the team that can pick up those responsibilities because they're responsible for that. I'll guide them. I'll say, maybe you should talk to so-and-so, but it's really their responsibility to figure this piece of the puzzle out. Just like it's my responsibility. If I want to be gone for 4 weeks, I got to figure that part of the puzzle out.
No, I'm loving a lot of the things that you've brought up, and I'm going to kind of go back on a few of them. One, regarding the 40-hour work week and whether or not that's what we're supposed to be doing. Clearly, that's just a manifestation of something that's no more than maybe 100 years old. It's very recent, and so it's not like for centuries now, the human existence has consisted of 40-hour work weeks. It's just something that our Western culture has actually put into place. And so I think that's fascinating. I just had a conversation with someone I believe you also know, John Briggs. He just wrote a book called 3.3, and he addresses this. And we had a phenomenal discussion about it. And I think it's something that we all should consider as to where is it that we work optimally.
Mm-hmm.
I say the word right now, but when we're working optimally, what we're trying to do is just figure out where are we most productive. And so that's one of the things that he was trying to address. And I like that discussion. The second thing that I really appreciated you mentioning is in the 4-week vacation. The 4-week vacation consisted of a state of depression that comes on when the individual realizes, oh my heavens, I've created an organization that can now function autonomously from me. Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that is the goal. The goal is to build a business that you can actually have that is autonomous from you. That is where it has its greatest value, because now somebody else can acquire it and not worry about you leaving it. So that is the
Absolutely.
ideal, but it's like our children. So here's what's going to happen. I equate the business to a child. And so in that situation, when your child now is a young adult and they leave the home, yeah, there's a state of depression of, oh my heavens, I'm an empty nester. My house is now absent of all this life that my child brought into it. And they're off living this life, getting their education, starting a life with a new relationship, building a family of their own. And you feel as if this is something to be depressed about? That's a success. How proud should you be as a parent to know that they're off being independent and successful? But the point is business owners, when they sell their businesses, oftentimes go through this depression, because in our culture, so much of our identity is tied to your introduction of, oh, and I own, or I run a business, and that is who you identify yourself as. And so all of a sudden, when you recognize in this 4-week vacation that maybe that is less of my identity than I thought it was, you start to realize I need to be more clear as to who I am. And I think that was a huge insight that you were bringing up there. The other thing that I also appreciated was, as you were kind of winding down with the idea of the vacation and delegation, we do need to be in a position where we're able to say, okay, what needs to get done? And these $10,000 tasks, we do get caught up in the busy work. There are things, clearly there's a lot of work to be done, but all of us as entrepreneurs should soon realize every day ends with there was more that could have been done. We all have to walk away from something. It's not a task that just gets wrapped up in a nice little bow and gets set on the shelf. There's always undone things. And there is this anxiety that I think a lot of business owners face, where they quickly need to learn you're never going to be done. You always have to find a stopping point where you can walk away and now take care of family needs or community needs or self needs, because you have to be able to say enough is enough and I have to stop here. Well, if you're having those stopping points, you have to identify what are the priorities. I can't be doing a whole bunch of small little rinky-dink things. I need to be working on the big things, the things that only I as an owner can address. These things that the other people can do, let them take care of it. Delegate those things, pass them along. Let's focus on the things that require our attention as owners of the business. So you're hitting so many wonderful things here. So here's what I would like to do. I'm going to kind of wrap this up. But before I do, I need to ask, you were alluding to this chart that people can put on their wall that identify those $10,000 tasks. You've got your books. Where can I send my listeners so that they might be able to learn of these things? Do you have anything in particular that I can kind of drive them to, having heard this episode?
Absolutely. So the chart of $10,000 an hour activities is available at tapthepotential.com/10K. You can find me, my team, at tapthepotential.com. The 4-week vacation books and the How to Hire the Best books are available on Amazon.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. And I'm going to put that information in the episode description as well, so that my listeners can go there. I'm sure many of them are not in a position that they can write this down and pause it perhaps. So I'm going to put that in the episode description and allow you to actually visit that when it's convenient. The other thing I'm going to put in the episode description is information regarding some additional resources that you want to take a look at, one of which is at universalaccounting.com. In the free resource section, I want you to scroll down and you're going to find what's called Pre-Score. Pre-Score is an assessment of you as it relates to your business and your in its dependency on you and your emotional state, removing yourself from the business. And so it addresses exactly what we were talking about a moment ago. The other thing I wanted to point out is, earlier we were talking about the hiring of the best people. I alluded to finding employment with confidence. It's a course, a free course. You can access that also at the free resource section. So it'll be in the episode description. You can find that, or you can just simply go to universalaccounting.com, and in the free resources, it's near the top. It's indicated there as job placement assistance. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to summarize our conversation here for a moment and come back to you for a closing thought. As a summary, I have to say this was very enlightful. The first thing that I really appreciated was the hiring the best employees. I think we do need to come to a realization that our organizations need to be built upon individuals we can trust. People that have also a drive, a loyalty to the company and the customers, that they're willing to actually go the extra mile and take care of things that need to get done. There are those individuals that we're obviously going to hire that are job oriented. They are the clock punchers, the ones that come in and just kind of work what needs to be done. Those exist, and what we need to do is identify who they are and perhaps either inspire them or replace them with individuals that are much more driven and, in fact, can be those A players for us, because it's upon them, their excitement, their energy, their commitment to the business that we're going to be able to grow the company and sleep at nights knowing that it's in good hands. The second thing that I really appreciated with this was this conversation about the 4-week vacation. I do want to issue that challenge with Dr. Sabrina to simply say, we each need and deserve this time off. We need to be able to recharge. I think it's great time for us to actually find some of our self needs and address those. It allows us to rekindle relationships with those people that matter in our lives. Find those 4-week vacations. The way I envision this, just so that I can add my 2 cents, my most favorite vacation is a cruise. I love cruises, and what you can actually do are back-to-back cruises where you get off of one boat, you walk on the dock over to the other boat, and you get on the next one, and you take off for the next week. I think that would be amazing. So one of my little things that I'd like to do is simply to get on one boat, finish that week-long cruise, get off, go to the harbor, check back in, and walk right onto another boat, and I think that would be a blast. Mike, I don't know if you're aware of this, Dr. Sabrina, but I believe he just did a train vacation where he got on the train and went, and he spoke highly of that. So clearly these opportunities are out there. I encourage everyone to take advantage of that. And hopefully what you can do is report to Dr. Sabrina that you can add your name to the list of the 10,000 individuals that have done so. And I encourage us to all do that. The last thing I'd like to point out is this idea of prioritization of tasks. I really thought that was very helpful for us to recognize that there are things that we can't or shouldn't delegate. There are things that we are most effective at, and we need to be able to find the time to prioritize those, to work on them as they should be. So really a lot of gems in this conversation here today. Dr. Sabrina, what more would you like to add as a closing thought?
Well, so there's so much. So first off, I love that you want to take a 4-week vacation and you challenged the audience to do the same. If you want to take a 4-week vacation, head on over to tapthepotential.com/pledge. And that's where you can officially make your 4-week vacation pledge. And our team will reach out. We're not going to pressure you to do anything other than say, tell me about this 4-week vacation and what do you see as a challenge that would get in the way? And we'll send you. I have a podcast, Profit by Design. I've done lots of podcast episodes about helping business owners get ready for their 4-week vacation. So our team will find out what your challenge is around that and say, okay, we've got an episode for you and we'll send it to you because we want to support you in being successful. I think one of the greatest things to be able to listen to a podcast is to be able to leave and have something actionable so you can take action and feel like, okay, I got something out of this.
Please.
And what I would encourage everyone to do is to identify your hard stop every day that you're going to end work at a certain time. Tell your spouse, find an accountability partner, somebody that you got to go meet at the gym, somebody that you have an obligation to, that you're out of the office at that time, and stop work. Put your phone away and be fully present with yourself, because that is the beginning of you discovering who you are away from this business.
I love it. Thank you for that wonderful advice. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to challenge all of you to reach out and make that pledge. It's something that I'd like to be able to do myself at some point. I don't know that I'm there yet. But with regards to this, I do want to invite all of my listeners, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, we'd love to have you as a subscriber. Each and every week, we release new episodes to help you work on your business and build what we refer to as the premier accounting firm in your area. In addition to that, we also have at universalaccounting.com in the navigation, a podcast section where we actually have the highlights, playlists that you can go and binge listen to various episodes that you can find that address the needs that you currently have in your business today. Whether it be marketing, selling, pricing, perhaps it's mental health, possibly it's that of staffing, tech stack. Go in there, find those things that you're needing and listen to those experts as they actually shared very valuable insights on things that you can be doing to work on your business. The other thing I want to do is encourage you to attend GrowCon. GrowCon is a conference, an annual conference for the owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. It's here that we get together to hear from the experts and celebrate our successes as individuals as we run our businesses. We also get to collaborate with our peers, get to know those other individuals within our profession that are being successful and what it is that's working. And then lastly, meet the staff here at Universal Accounting Center, those individuals that are committed to your success so you can be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal Accounting. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is if you've found these principles that we've discussed today or in other podcasts interesting or ones that you would like to apply in your business, feel free to reach out to us. You can do so by going to universalaccountingschool.com or giving us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, accounting success is universal. Do take care. Have a great day and be safe out there.